Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Lauren Moon here with Don Garman. We just got out of our investment committee. We had a good series of discussions today reviewing our strategies, positioning over the last year, but more importantly, our positioning going forward. We talked a little bit about kind of this growth versus value rotation that has been going on and where we're looking for kind of pockets of opportunities. So, Don, what are your kind of key takeaways from this morning?
Hello everyone. I'm going to reiterate something that we talked about, and I would say a hotly debated and hot discussion at investment committee today, which is sort of the narrative of the year so far from my perspective. Uh, I would say that if we're walking, a year ago to now, we came into the year, I would say, fairly defensively positioned, not because of anything having to do with the pandemic, but just because of our um, mild concern with valuation and the sort of economic momentum that was sort of ebbing at the time. And then as we got into February and ultimately into, you know, uh, March, April with the shutdowns in May, and then the ongoing saga surrounding the pandemic, which obviously appears to be going back in the wrong direction. I know that we deliberately took the position throughout that for our clients and their lives and considering this unknowability around the pandemic itself, we were going to err on the side of not losing a dollar rather than trying to be bold and coin flip and try to guess what the winners of the next day or week or month were going to be. And and then as that kind of narrative shifted into the summer, we were kind of getting close to the election, and I think that we were talking about it at the time rightly, that at one point it looked like, depending on how things were going to go, there would be an easy reelection for President Trump. And at other points, getting approaching the election, it looked like a blue wave was going to sweep everything and change everything radically in terms of tax policy and foreign policy and, the national agenda. And ultimately, what it appears overwhelmingly likely now is that the market's getting what ultimately it wanted, which is not, I'm not going to use the term gridlock, but I will use the term some forced collaboration among the two
Mhm.
sides, hopefully for all of our benefit. And I'll repeat something that my dad used to say to me, and I think I've mentioned to you in the past, which is when we were negotiating our partnership, we would frequently say the partnership split isn't right until both people feel like they're getting screwed. And I think in America, the way that this ought to unfold is that each side is going to have to give some things that they view to be important in order to get some things they view to be more important from the other side. And I think in a democracy, that is, in some sense, the ideal is the collaboration and the give and take, and hopefully the respectful disagreement on ideas, but ultimately the resolution in a way that moves the country forward, where each the most fringe elements of either party aren't going to necessarily get everything they want. So anyhow, that feeds into our positioning going into next year, and so I'll just dovetail into that real quick. It seems I would not have predicted, certainly, that the market would shrug off the savage health numbers that we've seen
Mhm.
to this point. If somebody had told me a year ago, here's the facts surrounding the pandemic, and here's the trends going into the winter, how will the market be responding? I would have definitely said with a high level of concern and a lot of caution. And that's truthfully not the tone of the market itself. And I think we all sort of understand the pandemic has been devastating on, gyms and restaurants and small businesses that depend on, the high level of consumer activity. And ultimately, a lot of the companies that have been the beneficiaries of it are, the sort of capital light, employee light models where you don't have people traveling, you're saving costs, and you're not losing a
Mhm.
ton of productivity. And so that has been the story so far. What I think could happen is going into 2021, we are now in the less bad news. I mean, obviously, the next 6 weeks to 8 weeks are going to be savage on the health front, but we've been
It'll be less
knowing
shocking, yep,
we've
than
been
last
knowing
year.
about
Yep.
savage winter for a long time now. So it's hard to understand how the market's going to be surprised by, more hospitalizations and more deaths at this point. That seems to be like what everybody's expecting. So then we get into, if the market looks out, let's say between 6 weeks and 6 months, I think Q1 or the first earnings that we'll hear about will be Q4, the quarter that we're living in now, will still be the, less expenses allow for more earnings than maybe we were kind of expecting. So everything kind of looks still pretty good. And then we get into the first quarter of 2021, which will be reported in April, will have that last bit of 2020 where things were closed to go up against, and we should then be seeing the benefits of some distribution of a vaccine. And we're all commenting on somewhat of a return to normalcy on the roads and more business kind of ancillary stuff getting done, granted albeit with masks on and whatnot. But we're coming into a period where we're all a little more adapted and we're all a
Mhm.
little less um, you know sh- uh, put out by the things we do to kind of resume our lives as we, somewhat of our lives as we knew them. So I think that will be the narrative next year, and then all of a sudden it's going to look like, oh my gosh, earnings are up 20% year on year. Oh, 20%, that's great. These are deserved valuations for 20% growth year on year. And I don't think anybody's ever going to look back and go, but it's still less than 2019. Does
Mhm.
everybody know that? And everyone's going to just be in kind of like suspended disbelief. This will all change when the Fed decides, okay, we're moving into a different policy direction. We're going to start to raise rates again. We're going to start to give savers a viable alternative to stocks. We were debating this, and you may see it in your accounts later. There are still companies that are really, really great businesses that are yielding
Mhm.
7 to 8% that are still down 40% for the year.
Right.
And those are going to be some great winners going forward, and ones that we're continuing to find those opportunities to place in all of our portfolios. And so I think that will be, it's not going to be drastically different for us next year than it was this year, in the sense that as long as we continue to find those great opportunities, I just think
Mhm.
this year was particularly defense oriented. And
Right.
we always play some defense, but I don't think it has to be as um, front and center all year as it was this year, in my opinion.
Well, and to your point, playing defensively allowed us to dial down the market risk while keeping positions in companies that we liked, which was largely large cap growth, which worked
Yeah.
out great. We got to continue to hold Google and
Yeah.
Amazon and
Yeah.
Apple while kind of muting the rest of the volatility in the market. So, um, looking forward into next year, just to kind of summarize our viewpoint, we expect earnings growth to pick back up with
Yeah.
2020 as more of a reference point. Go ahead.
And I mean, actually, this is just your point that I'm going
Yeah.
to make for you, which is, and the playbook does need to be adjusted somewhat to be more inclusive of small cap, and to be have a re examination of non-U.S. Non this the theme of this year was one theme, which is U.S. large cap growth. Well,
Mhm.
in the future years, there will have to be other elements to the playbook, because you cannot just rely on, you can have the greatest quarterback in the world, but if he doesn't have any players around him, then he's going to get sacked a bunch and he's going to be very injured shortly. So how's that one?
That's a good one.
So yeah, that will be part of the upcoming weeks and maybe couple months is surrounding the portfolio, the large cap growth champions with some other elements.
All right. Sounds good.
So I did tease this last video, which is, uh, and I guess I'll say more about it now in conclusion, which is there are a group of you who I have referenced not by name, but that are have been really uh, consistent fans of ours and send your friends and family members in because you're such passionate clients and fans. And in 2021, we are going to formalize a program to reward you because that is truly everybody says this is the greatest compliment you can give, all that stuff. But I think what we're more trying to capture is the spirit of, we do appreciate it. They are our favorite people because it is a family business, and building our business around people who already know us and are referred. I refer to Mirador as a band sometimes. When somebody's like, you got to listen to this band, they're great, you got to come to a show with me, you're going to like it, and then that person becomes a fan. It really builds out what it's more and more feeling like around here, which is a little it's an extended family feel, which is exactly what we want. So we're going to do more to officially reward you and put together an official plan where what you can expect if you continue to do this so nicely for us. Just help us build our business. So anyway, I'll leave it there for now. Any
All
parting
right.
words?
None, none for me other than um, year end is coming up. We sent out some planning information. So if anybody has kind of questions or follow up items, RMDs are not required to be taken this year from your the required minimum distributions from your IRAs. So we'll be reaching out with any logistics that need to be coordinated, but always feel free to ping us. We're here with any questions about anything going into the end of the year.
Good. Thanks, everybody. Have a happy Thanksgiving if we don't talk to you first. And thanks again for everything. And we hope everybody stays safe, and we'll talk to you soon.